Hello everyone, my name is Kelly Tierney. I'm from the Career Design and Development Office, and today I will be presenting Building Your Brand, Resumes, CVs, and Cover Letters for the Graduate Student. Let's begin first with resumes and CVs. So first up, what's the difference between a CV and a resume? Well, they're both marketing documents, and they both chronicle your experience, your education, and your accomplishments. And they should both be easy to read, easy to scan. But a CV is most commonly used in academic or research settings, while a resume is most commonly used in industry. A CV has no maximum page length, and sometimes you'll see CVs that are over 10 pages, while a resume typically should not exceed 1 page, maybe 2 or 3 pages for experienced professionals. The style of a CV is more formal than a resume. You may use APA formatting for publications and presentations. And the resume should have a business-like writing style. The CV could be written in a narrative or bulleted combination, while a resume typically will stick with the bulleted format. Again, they should both be easy to scan. As you prepare to write your resume or CV, you may want to think about what sections you would include. So thinking about the potential headings. You should have your name and contact information referred to as the banner. You may have a summary statement. You'll include your education, both completed and in progress degrees. You could include things like clinical experience and training, teaching experience, research or assessment experience, industry-specific experience. Could include community involvement and volunteering, leadership roles, publications and presentations, your professional organization memberships, and any other additional experience. This will truly depend on your specific background, your experiences, and what your job goals are. So the sections may not be the same for everybody. And the order of your sections is up to you. You'll put the most relevant experience first and the least relevant experience towards the end. So thinking about some general rules and formatting guidelines, especially in a resume, you want to write as concisely as possible, and so you'll typically remove articles like the and a. For either document, you will remove photos, logos, images, and when writing in the bulleted format, avoid using personal pronouns like I, me, my, our. They should both be easy to scan, and consistency is important. You'll want to have consistent margins, a minimum of 0.5, consistent font style and size, except for your banner if desired. Typical font size is between 10 and 12 point. You want to have consistent spacing, and you'll use selective use of boldface, italics, and all caps for emphasis to help you create a hierarchy for consistency across sections. Within each section, your experiences should be in reverse chronological order with your most recent experience first. And finally, for both a resume and a CV, the categories should be clearly labeled to help us easily scan the document. Here's an example of a CV. You see the banner at the top, the student's education, their certifications, experience in graduate training. They have a page 2, continues on with their graduate training. Other clinical experience, research experience, assessment, presentations, leadership, and professional affiliations. This CV is 4 pages long. On the flip side, you'll see someone who has significant experience, 22 years of experience, and was able to express that in a 1-page resume. You could choose to go hybrid and include elements from both a CV and resume in one document. Some ideas for that include having your name in a larger and different font, adding relevant additional sections like leadership, service learning, multicultural experience, or grant writing, and then to continue to use selective use of bullets to break up the copy. Tailoring your resume or CV is extremely important. And the example I like to give is that writing your resume or CV is like packing a suitcase for your vacation. When you're packing your suitcase for your vacation, you're packing your best outfits and you're packing according to where you're going. So if you're going to the beach, you'll pack your bathing suit. If you're going on a ski trip, you would pack your winter jacket. So writing your resume or CV is just like that, in that you're going to include the best things about your experience and your accomplishments, and you're going to include information that's relevant to where you're submitting your document. Some other ways to tailor your resume or CV is to vary the order of your categories. When you're a student, education will always come first. But that can change after you have some years of experience in the field that you're studying. And you can also add or omit or de-emphasize specific items in your resume or CV. You should take your cue from the job description, read it carefully, get a good sense of what they're looking for, and use that information to decide what to highlight or emphasize in your document. So from here on out, we'll go through some typical sections seen in a resume or a CV, and I'll point out some important elements. So first up, we have the banner. You see the person's name, it's in a larger font, their address, their phone number, and their email. They chose just one address, phone number, and email to make it easy for the recruiter to know what to use to contact you. They could have also included a personalized LinkedIn link. It's an opportunity here to have fun with style. You can play around with the font size and the fonts that you choose to use. And we're often asked how to create that line. It's 3 = and enter, and that line will appear if you are using Word. And just another example of slightly different formatting here. Next up, we have the profile or summary. It's a brief overview of who you are professionally. I like to think about it as if it's your elevator pitch. You're including this at the top of your document to encourage the reader to continue to read on and learn more about you. And so the breakdown can follow like this. 1, a professional definition. 2, an overview of your relevant experience. And 3, an overview of relevant skills and personal qualities. I would also include highlighted accomplishments in that section. You can choose to write it in 2 different ways. You could follow a paragraph format or a bulleted format. And the examples are here, in which the individual is expressing the same information, but in 2 different ways. So in both options, we see that they're a social worker, they've served the community, resolved conflicts, they're trained in domestic violence, adolescent and child needs, and they're positioning their future goals, motivated to continue work in crisis intervention and provide support in mental health. Next, we have the education section, and you'll see 2 different examples here. Some things that you want to make sure to include are the name of the institution, the city and state of the institution, the name of the degree, the date the degree was or will be earned, just the month and the year. Some other things you could include would be relevant courses, awards or honors, maybe study abroad. Some formatting tips and guidelines. You'll see here that in both examples, they used the whole page by having their locations and dates on the right-hand side. That's a really nice way to make use of the space on your resume or CV and to help make it easy to scan. They both used selective and consistent bold and italicized or capital letters to help certain aspects stand out. So in this top example, they bolded the name of the institution in each entry. In the second example, they italicized the name of their degree. Within your education section, your most recent degree should come first. And if you're currently in a program, you'll write expected or anticipated prior to the month and year that you expect to graduate. Moving on to your experiences. These guidelines can generally be applied to any type of experience. This could be industry-related experience, professional experience, internships, teaching experience, whatever sections or headings apply to you and your experience. When describing your experiences, a helpful format to follow is action verb plus task plus impact. And that impact piece is really, really important. When you are describing your experiences, you want to make sure you're including results as much as possible and your accomplishments through that experience as much as possible. Your description shouldn't read just like a job description. It's more important for me to understand what impact you had on the role as opposed to what the responsibilities of the role are. Numbers can go a long way when describing your experiences and accomplishments, so try to quantify as much as possible. And when you're choosing action verbs, use descriptive, powerful action verbs. There are tons of lists out there, and if you just type into Google resume verbs or power verbs, there's tons of examples that you can find, and they're often even categorized by the skill that you're hoping to highlight. And just a little grammar tip, if you are no longer working at the job, your verbs should be in past tense. And if you are still working there, your verbs should be in present tense. Here are some examples. Looking at our checklist, for every experience, you'll include the employer name, the employer city and state, your job title, and your dates of employment. Here we have some examples of a bulleted description, and you can see some strong action verbs like facilitate and collaborate. I'm getting a sense of the type of population the social worker was working with. They included the age ranges and the number of groups that they offered. Here's another example, continuing to include the employer, the job title, the location, and the dates of employment. They have bullet points to describe their experiences, and they're quantifying their work throughout. Clinical training and research experience. For the most part, you can still follow the same principles as writing your professional experience, but a few more details may be relevant. You may want to include the number of hours completed and who your supervisor was or is. In these examples, I've included what a narrative form would look like. This is an option if you're writing a CV and not a resume. I've also included what a bulleted example would look like for comparison. But still, you're noticing the name of the institution, the title of the work, and a strong description of what you were doing and your accomplishments. Again, some research experience, samples, both in the narrative and bulleted form. Here are some examples of how you could include licensure and training. I'm going to list the name of the license and the date you earned it. If there's an expiration date, you may want to include that as well, and who the body is that provides that licensure. You can also include other training and professional conferences that you've attended, especially if the topic is relevant to the type of job that you are seeking. So you'll see that here with the example under training and conferences, including the title of the training, who provided it, the location, and the date. And then an example of what assessment training would look like. This individual wanted to highlight that they've had assessment training, so they gave it its own heading and included what that meant underneath. Here's a volunteer or service example, including the dates, the role, the agency, and the location, and then a strong description underneath. Publications and presentations in APA format. Examples of professional affiliations. Here we have the skills section. Your skills section should be a listing of your hard skills or skills that you could be tested on in an interview. Very often we'll see things like computer skills, language skills, or laboratory skills here. Soft skills like communication and teamwork should be described through your experiences and not in your skills section. In these three examples, you'll notice slightly different headings, which you can create based on your personal skills and what you're hoping to highlight. And another option that's not illustrated here would be to indicate your level of skill with a particular program or language. So for example, if you were new to Salesforce, in this first example, you could indicate that you're a beginner. But overall, you'll notice it's a simple section with a listing of your hard skills. And some final resume or CV tips. If your CV is more than one page, you may want to include your name and the page number in the header or footer. You should ask others to review or proofread your CV and certainly reciprocate that for others. Maintain a running log of trainings that you've attended, new leadership roles, so that you can update your CV as life goes on. And something I find extremely helpful is to keep a master CV or resume in Word so that you can easily edit it. You can pull from it to adapt to different types of job goals, but you're never losing that information. You have everything in your master CV or resume. When you send a final copy in, you should send it in a PDF format so that your formatting stays intact. All right, so that's resumes. Moving on to cover letters. Cover letters can make a really big difference in a job application. It's your chance to make an A+ first impression, and done well, it can help you outshine your competition and win the interview. I like to look at it as it's your opportunity to really connect the dots for the employer and make it so clear to them why you are a good fit for the role. You can think back to your personal statement for graduate school, and your cover letter should complement and reinforce your CV. You want to be careful that it's not just reiterating your resume or CV point by point. When writing your cover letter, there are a few things that you'll want to be careful to avoid. You want to make sure that you're not using just a fill-in-the-blank template. When you use something like this, it communicates to the employer, I'm not specifically interested in your opportunity, I just want a job, I'll work anywhere. And you really want to be doing the opposite of that and expressing your enthusiasm to them for the position that they are offering specifically. You'll also want to avoid sloppy writing and proofreading. For example, making sure you're not writing the wrong organization in a cover letter. You'd be surprised how often that actually does happen. But it's always a good idea to have someone look it over for you. And finally, employers don't like it if you don't make any effort to address the focus and requirements of the position, or for you to acknowledge any areas for development. So you really want to be sure that you're paying attention to what they're looking for and explaining how your experience lines up with that. Here we have some formatting tips for you. You'll want to use the same letterhead as you did in your CV or resume. That gives you a consistent branded look. When you write the letter, you'll address it to a specific individual if you can. If not, you can use Dear Recruiter, Dear Hiring Manager, to the hiring committee. The phrase to whom it may concern is considered a bit outdated. Include a subject line before the first paragraph and reference the position title. So it could look like this, RE Account Strategy Manager. Use a colon, not a comma, after the salutation. And do not include the first name. So it should read like, Dear Dr. Murphy, colon. For all paragraphs, use block formatting or indent 5 spaces. And when you're closing the letter, you can include a professional sign-off like Sincerely, Mary Smith. And try overall to keep your letter to one single page, never more than 2. So here's a visual example for you. You see the accurate date at the top, the employer address, the job title. They also included the job requisition ID number, which is often found in online postings. You see the greeting, 3 brief paragraphs. Sincerely, Nancy Randall. Before you get started writing your letter, you really should take a second to stop and do your research. Analyze the job description, review the company's website, and do this to help you tailor the cover letter. You want to be as specific as you can to what they're looking for and to this position, what interests you specifically about them. All right, so you did your research and now you're ready to write your cover letter. Here's the structure that you can follow. We call it the easy as ABC cover letter structure. It should be about 3 to 4 paragraphs total. And your first question is the A. What about this job interests you? How did you find out about this position? And if someone referred you, you should definitely include that information early on in the first paragraph. Then add some details about why you're interested specifically in this role. What drew you to the company or the organization and the specific job. B finishes the sentence, you should hire me because. And here you should review the description and highlight parts that play to your strengths. Choose 3 to 5 skills or experiences that they emphasized in their description and connect your qualifications with them. Support your claims with evidence and examples. Don't just list the skills. And then C is for close. Restate your interest, express your enthusiasm, ask for the interview, note any attachments that you're also including, and thank the employer for their time and consideration. Some finishing touches. Remember to match your resume banner with your cover letter banner for coordinated professional preparation. Save and upload the letter as a PDF so that the format stays intact when applying for jobs. You should also save it in Word so that you can make future changes. And if you send this letter as an email attachment, reference the position you are applying for in the subject line. What if you know that you're really interested in a specific company, but you don't see a job posted online? You can absolutely still write a letter to them to express your interest in an organization. It's very similar to a cover letter. Tell them why you are interested and how you can help or benefit them. And at the end, ask for an informational meeting. This is a great way to get on an employer's radar early. Thank you so much for reviewing this presentation. Please check out our My Widener page for additional resources. And if you'd like to schedule an appointment, you can email careers@widener.edu.